So today we're celebrating 29th Sunday of Ordinary Time, and a day that invites us to reflect on perseverance in prayer and trusting God's unfailing help. So in a world that often tests our patience and faith, the scriptures we have heard give us a clear picture of how God sustains us when we keep our eyes fixed on Him. Today is also World Mission Sunday. On this day, Catholics all around the world are reminded that we're called by Jesus to share His love and His message with everyone, not just in our own town or country, but everywhere. The word mission means being sent with a purpose, and our mission as Christians is to bring the good news of Jesus, that God loves every one of us and wants to be close to us. That's the heart of our faith. The church is not just a building. The church is us, a community of disciples, followers of Jesus, continuing His work on earth. We are all called to be missionaries of hope, to bring light, joy, and faith to others. Sometimes that's through words. Sometimes through a simple act of love. Sometimes through prayer that never gives up. That brings us to today's gospel. Jesus tells us, "Pray always and do not lose heart." It's easy to start praying. What's harder is to continue to keep praying, especially when nothing seems to change. We live in a world that expects instant results, instant food, instant messages, and instant answers. But faith doesn't work that way. Prayer is not magic. It's a relationship. And relationships grow through persistence, patience, and trust. In the gospel, Jesus tells the story of a widow who kept coming to a hard-hearted judge, begging for justice. He ignored her for a long time, but she refused to give up. And finally, he gave in. Not because he was kind, because she wouldn't stop asking. If even a grumpy, unjust judge finally listens, how much more will our loving Father hear the prayers of His children? That kind of persistence reminds me of someone very close to me, my wife's mother, Mary. Many of you have heard me speak on her before, especially in my very first homily after ordination. Mary was a deeply devout woman, devoted to the Blessed Mary, our mother, and she prayed the rosary every single day. But to her great sorrow, all three of her children had at some point separated themselves from the church. My wife Maggie had become an atheist. Her sister and husband had become Methodist for a while, and then just called themselves Christian. Her brother Vinny would say he never really left, but he never really went, except for Christmas and Easter masses. Mary could have been despaired, but she didn't. She knew the power of persistence in prayer. She went to daily mass, offered the rosary every day, and when she was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer that went to the liver, she made a deliberate choice to offer all of her suffering for the conversion of her children and their spouses. When my wife got the call that her mother had only 3 months to live, we were stationed in Guam. We came home expecting to find a frail, hopeless woman. Instead, we found someone that was radiant with peace and joy. She was still going to daily mass, always holding the rosary. She would even pick up our son Tony and have all the church ladies pray the O Tony prayer whenever something was lost. And every time we visited my in-laws, that crazy nun, Mother Angelica, was always on TV. She weighed about 80 pounds and was going through invasive experimental chemotherapy. but she always glowed with joy. When the doctors told her she had 3 months to live, she smiled and said, "Well, I guess because you put your stock in the miracles of modern medicine, that's what you think. But I put my stock in a loving God, and He'll decide when it's time for me to go." She died 18 months later. Mary died on August 15th, 1995, the Feast of the Assumption. But that was not the end of her story. 5 years later, in 2000, my wife came back to the church. 2001, I came into the church myself. And in 2020, I was ordained a Catholic deacon. Her son returned to the faith after meeting a Jesuit priest while studying at Notre Dame. And just 2 years ago, right after the Eucharistic Congress, my sister-in-law called my wife to say she had taken a job at a Catholic school as a kindergarten teacher. 4 weeks later, she called again in tears because a Eucharistic procession had brought her to her knees. Since then, she and her husband have been back in the church, fervent and faithful. Sometimes we think our prayers aren't working. We think they're taking too long. We even wonder if God is listening, but He always hears us. Mary, my mother-in-law, didn't live to see the fruits of her prayers on this side of heaven, but she surely sees it now. Because I definitely would not be standing here as your deacon if it weren't for an 80-pound woman who offered all her suffering for the salvation of my soul, wielding a rosary. That's the kind of faith Jesus speaks of today. The kind that does not give up. The kind that trusts, prays, and waits, even through pain or silence. We should not quit praying after our prayer was not answered for the first or second time. We must continue to come to God with our prayer requests until it gets answered. God hears every word, even the ones we whisper. So we see a similar lesson in the first reading from Exodus. Israel is under attack by Amalek. While Joshua fights in the valley, Moses stands on the hill with his staff of God raised in his hands. As long as his hands are lifted, Israel is winning. But when he gets tired, the enemy advances. So Aaron and Hur hold up his arms until victory is won. What a powerful image of intercessory prayer, of not giving up even when you're tired or discouraged. And a reminder that prayer is not a solo act. We need help. We all need help. We need others to hold us up when we're weak. And that's okay. Don't give up. Even if your hands are trembling, God sees you, and you're not alone. The church is here to hold you up, and we all need that help. We all need that kind of help. We all need that someone's Aaron or Hur. Sometimes it means holding up a friend's arm in prayer. Sometimes it means being like Mary, my mother-in-law, offering our sufferings for the good of others. Sometimes it means simply not giving up when God seems silent. Don't let fatigue or frustration silence your witness. Your quiet faithfulness, your daily yes to God, matters more than you realize. The world may not see it, but God does. God is not deaf. He is not absent. He is not indifferent. He is a good Father who hears the cries of his people and acts with justice and mercy. So pray always and do not lose heart. So on this World Mission Sunday, remember, you don't have to travel the world to be a missionary. You can start right here, right now, by praying, loving, and persevering in faith. I get asked pretty often, how I prepare homilies and stuff. And in these last 2 weeks, prepping this one, I've used a book that has given me a lot of inspiration for some of this content. And fortunately, or not by coincidence, The book I'm using is from Jim Beckman, who is doing our parish mission this week. And I encourage anybody that would like to grow in your prayer life. He has a really good book here. I'm a simple man, and this one really spoke to me. It's God Help Me. I don't get any commission off this for trying to sell it or anything, but this one is dear to me, and I don't usually do this, but with our mission and the need for prayer, I thought it was appropriate. What's in this is he shares a little short story of his own experience, and then he reflects on that subject. If you want to grow deeper and you need something or some encouragement, I recommend looking into this. You can peruse this one today if you want, but come listen to him speak. The parish staff and school staff spent the last several days in retreat with him and Mr. Paul Kim. Very, very good dynamic speakers. But that starts today, and we'll get into that later. But one part in here, it says, well, how do I pray? What's the right way to pray? Well, there's many ways to do it. You got the Liturgy of the Hours, the Rosary, praise and worship, and quiet meditation. I highlighted this part because it keeps me on the straight too. The important thing is to find what works for you. This is about your relationship, and you are going to have a unique way of connecting with God in prayer. So I encourage everybody to join us for the missions this weekend. Prayer changes. It changes things. Sometimes not right away, and sometimes not in the way we expect. But if we stay faithful, we will one day see the fruit of our prayers. Maybe not in this life, but certainly in the next. So my brothers and sisters, pray always and do not lose heart. And when you grow tired, let others hold up your arms. As Maggie's mom, Mary's life, reminds us, God always hears. He always acts. And in the end, his mercy always wins.